Joy just rips it out.
She
Rips out her
does.
self-identity like a weed.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head? Hi, I'm Lauren, and this is Brett and David, and we're going to be talking about a movie with that quote, Inside Out. So, do you guys ever wonder that?
Most of the time when I'm looking at David on set, that's what I'm thinking.
And the answer is just there's nothing going on in there. I thought that I was talking to my wife about Inside Out, and I was like, if they made a male version where it's like the main character is a guy, it would just be like there'd be so much dead space. Just because there's like it's so true.
The trailer calls out to that.
Yeah,
in the
it
first
does.
one with the dad, he's like watching the sports game, and then he like comes back into the family's discussion.
Yeah.
That's a great scene.
And then there was a boy at the end of the first one too, where he runs into Riley, and his brain just has this alarm going off, and it's like, girl,
And
girl,
all the emotions
girl.
are like running into each other. Yeah, I love that.
So we're going to be watching some clips today from Inside Out and Inside Out 2 and comparing them to the gospel of Jesus Christ, since that's what we do here. All right, let's play our first clip.
Behold, my super high-tech Riley protection system. Don't look, it's fine. This is for all those memories that belong in the back of the mind. Like this penalty one. It's weighing on her, so let's lighten the load. A one-way expressway to, we're not gonna think about that right now. Woo! That's pretty impressive.
You take such good care of Riley.
Thanks, I try. Okay, let's do a sweep.
Oh, here's one where she waved at a guy who was actually waving at a girl behind her.
Oh, that was so bad. Good choice.
Oh, here's when she forgot that girl's name.
Oh, yeah, that was super awkward.
What was her name?
I don't know, Janet or something. Whatever, let's just get rid of it. Oh. We keep the best and toss the...
I haven't seen Inside Out 2. So this is the first time I'm seeing this clip.
So I'd love to hear your unfiltered thoughts.
Well,
Let them stream out, David.
the same thing happened to me the other day when I was on BYU campus just walking around with my family, and this guy waved he was like looking right at me, waved at me, and I full on just waved back, and then the guy came up behind me that he was actually waving at, and I was ashamed.
David's like, are you a fan of the show? Like, went to shake his hand.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to brag. Six people came up to me and were like, hey, like the show.
Yeah, so
That
you try
was
to be
cool.
friendly when you see someone.
That doesn't happen. Like, that's not me bragging because that doesn't happen. But I'm on BYU campus, I guess. Anyways, but I thought, oh, you must be a fan of the show, but not at all. No.
Well,
no,
clearly
it's just
your
my
mind
ego.
didn't suppress that memory because you could still.
I wish it
remember
would
today.
though. Okay, but actually comparing this to the gospel, I think one of the messages is, as painful as those memories are, they serve a purpose still.
Mhm.
And like we need to use, like we're here to experience both joy and pain.
Right.
And we need to harness the painful stuff to grow and learn from it. That's what I got.
I agree with that. I think, because if they're getting rid of experiences where Riley has gotten in trouble or failed at something, we can compare these to trials. And if we tried to just completely forget every trial we've ever had, there would be no growth, no learning, no room to develop empathy for others who might be in those situations later on. And it doesn't serve us in helping us to become who the Lord wants us to become. So it's important to remember those. At the same time, though, when it comes to repenting for sins, we're told to not only forgive ourselves, but to forsake those memories as well. That doesn't mean that we have to completely get rid of them, because the way we learn not to repeat those mistakes is by remembering them. But we can forsake some of the guilt that was associated with it.
I like that. With repentance, you keep the memory, but maybe the sting of guilt and shame that accompanies it goes away.
Exactly.
In the spirit of paraphrasing gospel things, which is not a great thing to do, but one of the quotes I'm remembering, maybe it's from Elder Holland, it's, for those who follow Jesus Christ, like all things eventually work out. Like things will work to your good if you faithfully keep your covenants.
Right.
Is the idea of the thought and thinking. So like you're saying, even though there are painful memories and trials, if you follow Jesus Christ and live his gospel, these hard things that you go through will bring you closer to him and help you understand him better.
I will say that if these are the worst memories that Riley has that need to be suppressed at this point, lucky her, it's going to get a lot worse.
That's true. I mean, she's also, I think, 13 at
Yeah.
the start of this movie. So, but good for her.
Once you
And-
have some worse memories to like compare to, it's like, oh, that time I waved at that guy who wasn't waving at me. Like, that's not so bad. Let's focus on this really horrible thing that happened.
Well, what we see at the end is a lot of those memories that were thrown to the back of mind actually come back and play into something called her sense of self at the end. And that is the next clip we'll watch.
We could do a whole episode understanding David's sense of self and dig into those memories.
Wow.
So we'll post a link to that when we have that video.
I'm gonna need the long couch to lay down on while we do that.
Therapy
We
session.
can rearrange the cameras for that. That'd be cool.
Great.
I'm a good person.
What are you doing?
I'm selfish. I'm kind. I'm not good enough. I'm a good person. I need to fit in. But I want to be myself. I'm brave. But I get scared. Success is I make mistakes. I'm nice. I'm mean. I'm a good friend. I'm a terrible friend. I'm strong. I need help sometimes.
Having not seen this movie before, looks like she's experiencing cardiac arrest.
Just like one step lower.
Yeah.
Just like a hard panic attack.
And then you have the Avatar mother tree of memories, right? Or heritage. And yeah, you're going to have to explain a little bit. And then they hug the magic
Mother tree.
flower thing. What's happening here?
So in the beginning of the clip, you see these little orbs. Those are her memories, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're in this little, I guess, lake water thing. And they come up and build this tree up to the control center, which is the flower thing. And that is Riley's sense of self. So the first sense of self at the beginning of the movie is the one you see at the beginning of the clip. It says, I'm a good person. It's this very one-dimensional, focused on just being seen as a good person sense of self.
And like her core memories, it's just heavily curated.
Exactly. It comes from the core memories that Joy decides to put down there, and she sends the others to the back of the mind. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So she only puts good memories like down there, the best, right? The ones
And
that
Joy
will
just
help her be a good person.
rips it out.
She
Rips out her
does.
self-identity like a weed.
Because she realizes that as Riley's having this anxiety attack, this is not what she needs right now, because Riley has grown over the course of this movie. She's had a lot of, I guess you could call them trials. And because of that, this living under this umbrella of I am a good person isn't true to Riley anymore. It's not only not true to her, but the longer that she tries to be like, I am a good person, and have that be false, it's just going to harm her even more. That's why the anxiety attack isn't going away. So she lets this new sense of self with all of these memories, both negative and positive, come to be. And it has this duality and this beautiful contrast of I am a good person, I'm a bad person, I make mistakes, I'm kind, I'm a bad friend, I'm a good friend. And she's having all of these feelings about herself. And of course, the anxiety attack continues, but once they hug the flower or the sense of self, it's representative of Riley embracing all of these different sides of herself.
Which was also a really cute moment.
Yes.
Yeah, this is an interesting window as well into Lauren's head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. Were you
Please.
having like even a 10th of these number of thoughts while you actually watched the film?
No, I was crying the whole time.
So when you seem like you've really gone over the themes and the ideas and extrapolated what they mean, and
No, this is coming to me in the moment. I really like psychology, so I just try to like naturally apply it. But in application to the gospel,
I'm loving the thoughts. They're great.
Thank you so much.
I'm
Appreciate
impressed is what I'm getting at here.
In application to the gospel, I think I see a lot of members in the church, or especially younger ones, have, by that I mean YSAs, have like this, can develop an obsession with perfectionism because we're supposed to strive to be like Jesus Christ, who is literal perfection, knowing that we can never be perfect in this life. So how do you balance the two? And it can be really hard when you're trying to chase a life living under this umbrella of I am a good person, I am a good person, I am a good person, because it's impossible to be that all the time. So by being honest with ourselves and embracing all these different facets of who we can be, sometimes we're selfish, we're unkind, we're mean, we're rude, like, and embracing those things can help us to see where we need to strive for improvement and learn to grow to become more like Christ, rather than demonizing or villainizing those parts of ourselves. And if I could just share a quote from an Instagram post that Elder Holland made. He said, "As children of God, we should not demean or vilify ourselves as if beating up on ourselves is somehow going to make us the person God wants us to become. And, except for Jesus, there have been no flawless performances on this earthly journey we are pursuing. So while in mortality, let's strive for steady improvement without obsessing about being perfect."
I like that.
So I think at the end, that's what Riley's new sense of self is kind of representing. She's striving to know every single aspect of herself and embrace them all, so that way she can change the parts of herself she doesn't exactly like, and that will help her to become a better person, and she could still love herself in the process for all the good parts of her that she does have. People are complex and life is messy. And the emotions hugging her at the end is not only her embracing herself, but also reminds me of how Christ can help us as we're in the depths of a panic attack and come and give us support.
For me, in terms of testimony, at least in the faith and belief segment of Saints Unscripted, I would talk, and I guess also on Keystone on the new channel, I would talk a lot about the Hafens, Bruce and Marie Hafens book, Faith is Not Blind, and the kind of process or the 3 stages of testimony growth that they outline there that are simplicity, complexity, and simplicity beyond complexity. And I feel like that's what Riley just went through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of her identity, going from like the simplicity being, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. Like that's all I know. That's what I am. Like, this is all of me. And then getting into complexity and realizing, well, I've done some bad things and I'm feeling anxiety and all these other things. And she's just panicking a little bit. And, it's scary. But then pushing beyond that and getting to simplicity beyond complexity, where she doesn't go back to simplicity. She doesn't get rid of all these other things and say, no, I'm just a good person. She says, it's okay that I'm a good person and I've also done some bad things,
right,
and I have anxiety and all these different complex emotions. She doesn't let those things panic her by the end. She gives this big sigh of relief at the end. And that's not her getting rid of all those complex emotions. It's her accepting them and coming to terms with them and being at peace with the new reality and realizing that it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely.
The scriptures outline the natural man and perhaps your divine heritage as sons and daughters of God. And so sometimes as members of church, in our identity, we see like 2 sides of ourselves. Those are the 2 components. And any emotions or thoughts we might be having, we sometimes ascribe to one or the other. When people experience unhappiness or anxiety, they might think there's something wrong with them, that those aren't godly thoughts. So they must be like part of the natural man. They must be from the adversary. And they get conflicted with their identities in that. And it can create a feedback loop of perfectionism, in my opinion. So what I like with Riley accepting her broader identity is when we accept our divine identity and realize God loves us, he does, regardless of what we do or how things are playing out. He always has love for us. As we learn to love ourselves and accept ourselves, we want to be more like him. And we can maybe stop stressing so much about like the things you are doing wrong or the imperfections, or focusing so much on your flaws, what you're lacking, and just be like accepting that that's part of you. You have those things, but that God does love you and that you're making a journey towards that. But like accepting there's complexity to who you are. There is weakness, there is strength.
Right.
Like be at peace with all of those sides of yourself.
I absolutely love that because if we're, something big you mentioned is our identity as children of God, right? And I remember having talked to my therapist, this was many, many years ago, and I had committed a sin that I've since repented for, but I was talking to her about it and I'm like, I just feel so bad because like, this isn't a daughter of God. This is not something a daughter of God would do. And she's like, how do you know that? Aren't you innately a daughter of God? So like, yes, I can be a good person and I can be unkind and I can be a bad friend and a good friend. Any action or anything that I do will never change the fact that I am a daughter of God. That is innate within me. That is what I am born with. Of course, I want to do things that amplify that to the world because I want to amplify the light of Jesus Christ. But none of those things take away from me my identity as a daughter of God. That is always with me.
That's a great question from your therapist. How do you know that? That's great.
I know, right?
Like you are a daughter of God and you did do that.
All right, next clip.
You're putting too much pressure on her. You don't get to choose who Riley is. Anxiety? You need to let her go.
Thoughts?
What's the tornado?
She's anxiety is the orange emotion, and she's moving around so fast, trying to control everything on Riley's control panel.
Okay.
That she's just creating this swirling storm
An artistic representation.
of an anxiety attack.
So once they throw anxiety out, the tornado goes away.
No, the
Gradually.
tornado's still there. Remember, because in the clip we saw before this one, they have to do the whole flower thing. They have to replace her sense of self and then hug it, and then
So the anxiety from the tornado is different from anxiety the character?
she's just created the swirling mess that Riley continues, even though the character is not controlling the control panel anymore.
Okay.
It's like when Doc Ock creates that giant sun from the trinium, and they still destroy the fixture, but it continues to grow despite the fixture leaving.
Wow. That makes a surprising amount of sense. Thank you.
Anyways, something else that might help you is you'll notice the little flower thing. The sense of self was orange in this clip. That's because between the first sense of self we see at the beginning of the movie, the I am the good person, and the one at the end, there's this orange one that anxiety built. She replaced all of Riley's memories down there in the little lake pit with ones that she created. And so her sense of self was just built from anxious memories and nothing else. So hence anxiety attack happening, because it's just too much of one thing that she's feeling.
I love it when your New York accent comes out, by the way. I
Did
think
it come
that's a lot of
out?
fun.
No, it didn't. Did it come out?
You said all. All.
I missed that. That's a shame.
All the
Did you
time?
guys catch that?
She replaced all of Riley's memories down there. What do you say?
I
Al?
think it's cool.
I think it strengthened your
All.
point.
Yeah, it did. It did strengthen your point. That's
Thank you.
well taken. Okay, so gospel connections.
I think there's a few different ones. One that stood out to me when I first watched it was where Joy tells Anxiety, you don't get to choose who Riley is. And I feel like that speaks a lot to free will. Heavenly Father is never going to choose who we are. He will guide us and influence us, but he's never going to force us to become something that we don't want to become, although he knows what we need to become to give us the most fulfillment in this life and to carry out his mission here on earth. And in the same way, people might think that Riley's emotions control her because they have a literal control panel, but we see it multiple times throughout the movie that they can only guide and influence her, and she has to take ideas. There's even a part in the first movie where they give her little light bulbs, and Anger gives her a light bulb, and then it gets accepted, and he says she took it. So she has to take the ideas. They can just kind of push them on her. At the end of this movie, she has a moment where the control panel has these like yellow sparkles around it, and it means that she wants joy. She wants to feel joy right now. So she's calling to this emotion to come work on the control panel.
That was unfortunately really well articulated, because I was hoping to use this as a moment to like belittle Pixar's representation and be like, this is falsehood, this is apostasy. But
go ahead, I'd love to hear it.
Well, the problem is you made a really good point. I was going to say how they were attacking the idea of free will, but you're entirely right. It fits with this idea that we have emotions like anger, anxiety, excitement, and in my opinion, and to some degree, they're more just like biological responses. They're not, like you're saying, are part of free will. When you get angry at someone and it flares up inside you, that's, to my opinion, a biological response. And then once that somewhat settles, or once you're past that initial phase of anger, then comes your decision making, then your ability to choose of what to do with that emotion's influence on you.
Absolutely.
So I think, admittedly, it does fit with the gospel perception of free agency.
What about you, David?
I don't know that I have anything to add here. I'm grateful for your thoughts, and I'm actually very curious what our audience has to say about this, about these clips. If there are any other gospel connections you guys have made, or if there are any other movies you would like us to analyze and do this with, that would be great to know.
Yeah, if there's anything really apostate too from Inside Out, just throw that out there.
Okay, I was going to say, love yourself, love every single facet of who you are, trust in Jesus Christ because he is always with you, and we'll see you next time.
Watch this video while you're here.